Hi everybody, and welcome back to the monthly edition of Moons and Mythos. This is show number 8 with me, your co-host David Farrell, and my wonderful co-host Kelley Hunter, astrologer and mythologist. Hi Kelley, how are you doing?
I'm good. Wow, what a time we're living in. Isn't it awesome?
Yes, it's awesome. It's intense. It's a roller coaster ride, and definitely once or twice I felt a little bit queasy on this ride and wanted to get off, but I didn't, and I'm still here. And just coming off the back of the wonderful nettle immersion, of course, that you were involved in, super powerful. We learned a lot about the watery quality of nettle, actually, which I think is really interesting, given all of the talks that you've been doing recently with Pam about Salacia and Sedna, and there's been a lot of focus on water, but today we're going to be talking about the new moon in Aries that's coming up and the full moon in Libra. And this is a very potent moment, right? Because we also have the equinox roughly on the same time as the new moon, which has already had a lot of airtime. So today I feel like we're going to look at the new moon, but also focus a lot on the full moon, because I feel like that's not had so much attention recently. But where would you like to start, Kelley? How would you like to lay out today's show?
Well, we have these powerful moon cycles. The last one was this one, equinox, new moon cycle. That is a fresh start. And then we have a pretty dynamic full moon. And then next time there's an eclipse on the new moon. So we've got this power surge, cosmically this season. And so we are heading into this new season and into the Aries right on equinox. I mean, that is a meaningful moment. And what unfolds after, we have Pluto going into Aquarius like 2 days later. So this is a big moon cycle. There's a lot of major stuff, going on. And, obviously, if we look out into the world, we see a lot of major stuff going on too.
Right, so actually just on that note, we were just talking about this before we got on, right? And, there's a lot of illusion and deception and I would say sort of smoke screening almost of like some of the news that we've been seeing since last Friday. And I think you were saying that that's kind of an aspect of Mars still squaring Neptune. Is that correct?
Yes, well, I remember we did talk about this in Moons and Mythos 7 this week in March, leading up to equinox, having a lot of dynamics with the sun and Neptune and Mars squaring all that. And so there is just a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of obfuscation. There's a lot going on behind the surface. You don't know what to believe. So, just a good time to chill, and take care of what you need to take care of and see how it plays out. And keep the most positive minded vision you can in your head. Don't get taken down, keep that positive mindedness, which, can kind of step back from all of the mental craziness. And, that engages our heart too. And I think that shows up on this new moon. How important was for that, or do we have a couple of other things? You want me to do that?
So yeah, let's get the chart up for first of all the new moon in Aries, which is on the 21st of March, just shortly after we have the Aries equinox, of course. So it's all about Aries, right, Kelley? Let's get into this. It's all about Aries and all about the energy of new beginnings and all of that. So where would you like to point the magic wand to start this deep dive?
Equinox new moon. I mean, it's the new moon is like within 24 hours after. It's still at 0 degrees. It's still this turning point, this Aries point, this fresh start. And so it is like a fresh start. It's like almost like starting all over in a kind of way, like retake. And we've got Mercury right there, messenger of the gods. Is, Mercury is pretty brilliant in Aries, in my view. It's sort of like a cartoon when somebody has all these like light bulbs going on over its head, and there's a lot of ideas, a lot of stimulation. and use that personally. We want to really use the energies of these moon cycles personally, even while we're watching, and experiencing what's going on the outer level. So this is listening to yourself. And also we've got Chiron and Jupiter in Aries as well. Now we had that conjunction last moon cycle, but this is very important through this whole moon cycle. And we'll see that especially on the full moon, that Chiron and Jupiter are still in cahoots. And, this is a kind of a quantum level of wisdom coming in. This is also the newness, the freshness, the different take on things, and can be a kind of critical moment in, Chiron's kind of shamanic, out of the box, who knows what's going to happen next kind of way, because it is trying to align the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical, so that we are here now. We are fully present, and that is just the best strategy for this new moon. It's at such a tipping point. This is not just a seasonal shift. It's a much bigger shift, with the Pluto still at 29:58 here, like right on the edge. So that is very big here. And we have all of that Aries saying, yes, it is a really fresh start. It's a new era. It's not just a new season. And it's not even just the new 20-year Pluto era. It's something much larger than that because of this 0 Aries point.
Right. So if we may, just for a couple of minutes, because I think it's really important, it's just perhaps you could give our audience again just a slight overview of how the energies of Chiron and Jupiter affect each other in a conjunction, because I think it's pretty powerful and it speaks to me of different things. But I'd love to get your overview, and then how the energy really sits in Aries, because I think it's the major piece that we're looking at the moment because of so many things. But I'd love to get just a sort of an overview from you, Kelley, on that.
I remember reading, I forget who it was, it says Chiron conjunct Jupiter is like you're on a mission. And I took that in, to kind of consider that, especially on Aries. This is like we're blazing a new trail. The old trails are, it's like, the cliff is falling off behind us. The bridge has certainly burned. And so what is the new thing that's going to really meet the moment, really, answer our quest? I think of Chiron like a vision quest. As you are on your path of healing and wholeness, you find how you can serve others or what you have to offer. So this is like a vision quest for the wisdom and the guidance and the courage to take on, to enter this, new era, to help create the new world, to imagine it. And, so it takes place on some other level first. And we need to be in the moment with that and not too distracted. So that is really important, to be crystal clear and centered. That to me is the clarity of Aries, the integrity of Aries. I am me and I am no one else. And, although fire signs, especially Aries, can often be accused of being selfish, it's the capital S self. It's nobody else is you. So that's part of that, kind of catching yourself when you're, leaning back or leaning too forward. It's being straight and, clear and courageous, leading the way, going on this new trail. And what does that mean to you? A lot of people are experiencing major moments when they are so ready for a change. And then it's like, when should I do it? It's like, it could be time now, although, well, there's a little leeway on that as we move forward. And we also want to remember that Manwë is also conjunct this new moon. It's now in Aries 1 degree plus. So Manwë, we talked about quite a lot last time because it was at the 0 Aries point. And Manwe is Tolkien's highest archangel, who holds the original codes for what Earth is meant to be. And I love that Manwe is at this 0 Aries point, that it's part of this new amazing era we're going into, bringing back those original codes and communicating those to us so that we get clear on, we don't have to do it the old way. We can move ahead in ways that are powerful, creative, and move us forward rather than pulling us backward.
Right. So, a couple of phrases that come into my mind as you were talking about Chiron and Jupiter. And obviously there's the famous one from the Oracle of Delphi. It says, know thyself. But I also like this phrase of heal thyself, know thyself. And it's through healing ourselves that we really get to know ourselves. And I think that when I think about Jupiter and Chiron in Aries, I feel like maybe that our gifts to the world are from our own healing journey. And what do we learn? What is the wisdom that we glean from that? And then how do we embody it within ourselves? And then maybe Jupiter is asking, how do we expand it and share it with the rest of the world? And it's like only through direct experience does wisdom come. And only through direct experience does healing come, and so obviously the wisdom comes through healing. And if that's something then that we can apply to ourselves, and I'm talking very much from self-experience here, from the plant work, is a lot of what I share is something that I've been through all of it. I tested on myself, I experimented on myself, and went through a full range of emotional experiences. But in the end, because I have Chiron at 29 degrees of Aries, so I'm quite familiar with this energy. I come to understand that maybe that's part of my journey, is also to fully explore the healing dynamics that are offered, with that placement in Aries. And also then how does that help, or how can I share that with the world to help other people? And I feel that maybe we're all being encouraged at this time to share our gifts that we've learned on our vision quest. I love that idea of the shamanic vision quest, and having done a few of them myself, I understand how powerful and how profound they can be. And if we're on a vision quest for our life, wow, that's super exciting. And I think it fits really well with the initiatory energy that we have with Aries at the moment.
Very much. And it does represent, like Jupiter amplifies. And it makes it more of a critical moment when Jupiter is conjunct Chiron and Aries. Something new, it's like opening up, and we have to go there. There's no other place to go. We have to move forward, and this is one of those times. And because if we lag, we're going to miss the moment. But it's a transition time. It's like when the moment isn't just like 1 minute, it's a big moment. And so, but this is a critical moment in terms of our larger understanding, and doing a fresh take on that, and questioning a lot of what we thought was true or what we believe, because our belief systems can be very limiting and hold us back. And when we're confronted with something new, and it's like, whoa, and this could be part of that. But the healing, yes, and so many people, I'm talking to, and myself, we are on a healing journey right now, because we have to go forward. And to do that, we have to work out a lot of things in our own bodies that can be holding us back. And that could be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically, or all four, because Chiron's going to make symptoms in your body. It can evoke symptoms to let you know where the energy's stuck. And, in Aries, I think the fire signs typically can represent the spiritual. And so to some extent that goes into belief systems and being open. And another big lesson of Mars in Gemini for all these many months, since August, is also being open-minded. And sure, that could be true. Anything could be true, but there you are, like, what's true for you? But, being willing to be open is definitely called for here.
Right. And also on the healing tip, I think, we've talked about this before, but also just with the energy still with the nodes, and obviously we've got Pluto squaring the nodes, energy already kind of incoming, I would suggest, but it's going to be here in the not too distant future. And again, we're being forced to look at that South node in Scorpio, medications, poisons of the past, how did this all come, the role of money in that, the elites, the powerful. But then we've got the North Node in Taurus, which is also bringing it back to the body. And like you just said, you know, energetic blockages will show up in the body because they have nowhere else to show up. And so if we're being smart on our Jupiter Chiron vision quest journey for ourselves back to wholeness, we should be paying attention to what is going on in our body, because at the end of the day, it's no good passing the buck to other people and saying, hey, Dr. So-and-so, my body is your responsibility. You look after me. Because we just did all of that piece for the last 3 years. And we're now understanding that when you hand over sovereignty to other people who tell you that they have more knowledge about you, it doesn't always work out quite the way that you hoped it would. Now we have a global situation where we all have to deal with that. So the Jupiter and Chiron piece, I think, is encouraging many of us who are maybe in better health to and understand the energetic space better, to start maybe looking at how are we going to move through this over the next couple of years. For sure, we are going to have a health crisis. We're already in one. It just is not being acknowledged, apart from those of us who are willing to look at it. And I think that, as you said, there's going to be a point where everybody's going to have to look at everything, because that's the nature of the end of an epoch. And that includes our physical health and how much we're on that vision quest for our own well-being, which I think is a beautiful way of looking at Jupiter and Chiron, but also owning our own health, owning the responsibility for our own health, and owning the choices that we've made and questioning them now and saying, hey, maybe that wasn't such a great choice. Maybe I need to inquire more about the choice that I made, and maybe start understanding that there's some healing that needs to happen around that choice. All of this has got to play out, and it doesn't matter whether people want it to or not, it has to play out. And, you know, the time has got so compressed. You know, myself and Bella were talking about this morning, wondering what's going to happen over the next 6 months. And what I've seen over the last 10 years, but particularly the last 3 years, is that spirit, particularly my angelic brothers, were like, hey, we've given you guys so many chances to wake up and you haven't. So now we're going to have to do it the hard way, which is like in a very, very short space of time. And for sure, I'm getting lots of messages from people who are having exactly what you talked about, Kelley, aches and pains in my body. Something's not right, but the doctors can't find out what's wrong with me because they don't know, or they don't want to tell me, or whatever the story might be. So I think that bringing things back to the body is super, super important at this moment.
Yes, our body has memories. It remembers everything it ever experienced, you know, and you know, we have to look back at certain things that are still around and say, well, how can I let this go? That Scorpio South Node, it's like, I can't keep living with this, and Scorpio just wants to wash it away. So we have to be open to something new. And one of the outcomes, I think, of Chiron and Aries is a lot of new healing technologies are coming along. You know, we've been hearing about a lot of different things that are already becoming more and more available, and going back to some older things that are being reconstituted, like homeopathy and, you know, all the things that the AMA just like, you know, like threw out. And so what is still viable? And moving forward, we're moving forward. We have to try new things. It's new pathways. And, you know, it can be a little daunting, but this is why, if we're centered in ourselves, we can move forward. And if like something happens, you know, that is like, okay, we got to look at this. You know, what is this about? What is this stumbling block? What's getting in my way here? Am I pushing it? Am I trying too hard? Like, you know, what is the message here? And there is Mercury right in the mix here with new messages. You know, it just got a new download. So,
right. And think about what we've been doing with the plant immersions, for sure. I mean, we just completed the nettle immersion, and I know you're catching up on some of the content from that, but what came through was quantum information that we sort of already knew little bits and pieces about. But now, with all of the work about water, it's really opened our mind. This is a plant that is deeply connected to Aries, to Mars, to all of the things we talked about on the immersion. But lo and behold, this is a plant that teaches us how to hold resources, how to work with the structured water in our body, which carries all of these imprints of trauma, which is what, blah, 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 we're trying to get rid of. And so I feel that water is a huge part, even though we're now in the energy of really of fire. What we're understanding through nettle is you need to balance everything, and not just the fire and water in our bodies, but also the masculine and the feminine, etc., the light and the dark. We have to be in a place of harmony and balance, because if we're even slightly out, it's going to show up as a disease or an awkwardness or an emotional imbalance or something that leaves us vulnerable to the other kinds of unhelpful energies that are permeating our world at the moment. So this, I think this whole process with Aries is like, what are you doing for yourself? How much are you being centered in self, self-centered? Not like being selfish with the small s, as we've talked a lot about, but think about this. How much am I centered in myself, or how much of me is like a week down the road or 2 years in the past, or my head is somewhere else? How much of me is here now? And I think that with this Aries energy, we're being very, very much encouraged to be super present with ourselves and what is going on for us, and how are we stepping up and showing up for ourselves in our lives.
Yeah, the Sabian symbol for this new moon is that woman rising from the sea, embraced by a seal. She's coming out of the waters that she's been immersed in, and we still have Neptune in Pisces, and now we have Saturn in Pisces. So the water element is clearly, you know, a prime substance and meaning. And Saturn is trining the nodes. So the water is definitely an element to continue to pay attention to. It's one of the essential elements, and maybe it all comes back to water. But we're coming out of some level of immersion, like you're coming out of the nettle immersion now, and we're moving forward. And it's not thinking too far ahead, but it's like being alert, being really, really present, and seeing what you're seeing without, expectations or projections. That's part of being in the moment. This is a last minute awareness when I noticed that this new moon was opposite Ceres at 0 Libra, which is another of the equinox points. And so that brings me to thinking about Libra and earth energy and the need to be in proper relationship with earth energy and all our relations, everything on earth, we're part of the whole. And that's certainly what Saturn's going to confront us with, where, it's important to consider we're all in this together, and to come from kindness and compassion, and to also be open to what the earth is telling us with Ceres in Libra. Now she's going back to Virgo, which I think she really likes to be in, but there's still like we're finding a new frequency, vibrational relationship. And this is new. It's not from before. It's new. It's like a brand new thing. And to kind of really realize how new this is pretty fantastic, pretty amazing, like a fresh start from how many, years of our history, or, however we want to look at that. This is a fresh start, a new beginning, and everything has to be questioned and revitalized. So I'm glad to see Haumea, the birthing goddess, right on that south node, saying, when you let go, there's something else that comes forward with a kind of revitalization and passion that can give birth to the new. So letting go and giving birth to the new. Now we've also got the north node in Taurus, and Venus is right there. Right on the north node. Venus rules Taurus. This is promising. This is manifestation of beauty. This is like the beautiful is sustainable, because the beauty can make it happen. The beauty can brings us into harmony, brings us into appreciation, and, can stabilize. We don't want ugly, we want beautiful as we move along. Absolutely. This is worthy, this is valuable. What is that old poem by Keats? Beauty is truth and truth beauty. That's all I need to know. It's paraphrasing that poem quite a bit, but I love that Venus is conjunct the north node here. saying that this is what we want. We want beauty, we want value, we want texture. We want to look out at a world that's beautiful, not full of destruction. So that's part of Venus pulling us forward. And as the moon is waxing, Venus is going to be conjuncting Uranus before too long. I've got that written down somewhere. I've been writing my newsletter. So the sun visits Eris. Eris and Venus are close. So this is an interesting aspect of the divine feminine when we put Eris there, who's still squaring Pluto. And Eris can be contentious and she can stir things up, but let's not do let's not get reactive here. Let Venus take it in and how could this be useful? What is this trying to bring forward that is, part of what we need to be experiencing or looking at in order to bring more value and beauty and worthiness and harmony, and joy into the world. Joy,
Right.
world.
Well, that would be nice, for sure. And maybe we might even see it on the mainstream media, which is a place that's pretty joyless most of the time.
Right? Fear.
I mean, mostly I find it amusing, but that's a story for another time. But what I like also with what you've just picked out is that we've got the beautiful Venus conjunct the North Node that you've just so beautifully talked about, but also we've got Haumea also still within the 4-degree orb there with the South Node. And when I think about that, that's kind of like, well, death and rebirth, brand new beginnings, letting go of the past, letting go of the old traumas of the past, letting go of the pain of the past. And I think this is worth sharing. Something that came out at the end of the nettle immersion is how much of our presentation to the world, Kelley, is, or how much of our identity is based on the wounding of our lives. If we take all of our wounding and trauma away, who are we? And it really made me think about that. When that question came up in one of the transmissions, I'm like, wow, if I removed my identity that wasn't connected to any of my childhood pain or traumas or anything from my life, what would actually be left? Wow. And I was like, that was quite a deep meditation for me for a while, because I'm like, actually, probably not that much for much of my life. And it made me think, how many people in the world are still showing up, manifesting openly their traumas? And if we remove all of that, i.e. if we remove the karma of the old paradigm, the old timelines, then we're all being given this amazing opportunity to show up now and say, hey, I don't have any of that stuff. I'm not identifying with myself through my traumas. I'm identifying now with the will of my soul. And where does my soul want to go on this journey? Not what is it that I'm still trying to deal with and blah, blah, blah. This happened with that person, my parents and my family, blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff. If we keep identifying with that South Node in Scorpio, the pain of the past, we're never going to let go of it. And we cannot take those frequencies with us. They have to be resolved and brought back to a place of balance and harmony from the eagle's perch. So I think this is a really important part of this new moon, is just coming to terms with
people are doing trauma healing. Right. Yeah, because even, some people got big doses of it. Some people, we still all have that. It's been part of life. But we don't want to stir, we don't want to stir the mud puddle, we want to step out of the mud puddle. And Venus has a lot to do with self-love. It's she pulls us into the heart and says, what is your experience here? What brings you happiness? What brings you pleasure? What brings you satisfaction? And take it from there. And that's the whole law of attraction, that we hear about in the perennial teachings, and that Venus definitely wrote that law, because it's like our emotional state draws to us what we're magnifying, and attracting into our lives. So this is Earth. This is like nature. It's smelling the rose. It's like eating good food. It's appreciating, the texture of cloth, or when you're getting dressed, or just those simple little things can make such a big difference. And it doesn't have to be a big, whoa, it can be just doing the little things, more and more of them every day, and appreciating that, and just appreciating yourself, or still being here to feeling that strength and resilience through these last number of years that has been really, really, I mean, collectively traumatic.
Right, exactly. And, maybe this is why we are working with plants, because they're part of the reconnection to our heart. And one of the things that really came out of the nettle immersion was the deep, deep wounding that I think almost all of humanity carries in relation to their parents, but particularly the mother wound. And what we came to understand was at the heart of everything, at the heart of our own fractal sense of being, we have this wounding, this disconnection from the heart, the disconnection from the mother, not just our physical mothers maybe, but also the great mother, Mother Earth. And, when I look at this Venus conjuncting the North Node in Taurus, I'm kind of thinking, this is part of the energy that we want to bring back into that heart space, the reconnection to our mothers, the great mother. And as part of that, remember that we are part of the natural fractal cycle. And that even though there might be other options on the table as Pluto enters Aquarius, it's up to us. We have a choice. Which way are we going? Are we still going with the fractal, organic, expanding way? Or are we going maybe more with reductionist, transhuman AI technology? Everything is a valid choice. Everybody has a valid opportunity here.
Right in front of a choice with this Pluto transition. And we're also going from top down, kind of imposition to collaboration, which is beautiful. And, this is Venus. How do you want to be living? Live it now. Be enjoying your every moment. Don't let yourself get down in a funk any more than possible. Venus is going to conjunct Uranus on March 30th. So that is going to be a big moment. And, we have had Uranus in Taurus for a while now. But this, I think, is a prime moment that is about our values, about the old financial structures are definitely crumbling. As you mentioned, the health system is crumbling. So many of these old systems are crumbling. And so Venus is there to say, what do you want to be experiencing? Pay attention to that. Find that joy in the moment, in the simple things, and they'll add up. And then Haumea is about, let it go. If you don't like how you're feeling, let that go and, do some alchemy and find those small joy moments that just make a big difference in our lives. And, on a bigger level, can we translate that to the bigger level, in terms of what is going on and how to be in right relationship with the earth and what she offers us. So
exactly. And just before we move on to the full moon, I just want to loop back to that very point, the Ceres at 0 degrees of Libra. So is Ceres always in retro, or was it just retroing at the moment?
It's retrograde right now. It's it's in the asteroid belt. It has a 4-year orbit, but it does have retrograde moments, and it's in one now, which is saying, come talk to me.
Right. I think that's super interesting that Ceres is at 0 degrees of Libra on this new moon. It's almost like, hey, this is an opportunity to reset. Maybe Ceres at 0 degrees of Libra is resetting the scales, right?
Yeah.
How much am I in my relationship to nature?
Myself,
because I am nature. And if we're asking about the right relationship with Mother Earth or with Earth energy, what we're also saying is, am I in my relationship with myself? Because I'm part of that cycle. At least I hope that I'm still part of that cycle. So I feel like this new moon, if we're thinking about intention setting, I would dare to suggest that maybe bring it back to yourself, bring it back to your connection to the earth, your connection to the things that give you joy, that give you creativity, the things that make you happy. If you're constantly focusing on the things that make you sad and angry and unhappy, then that's what you're going to keep experiencing, right?
Yeah. If you look for what's going wrong, you're going to find it. Look for what's going right and amplify that for sure. Yeah. Exactly. So that's beautiful.
All righty. So with all of this wonderful new beginning energy, this energy of fire and the new moon and Aries and equinox how is it all going to come out 2 weeks later on the full moon? That's what I'm really interested in.
Weeks later. So look at Pluto, and now look at Pluto in Aquarius.
Booyaka.
There she is. I think, Pluto I like Hindu mythology because every god has a goddess that represent that same energy in the male-female dynamic. But look, here is the full moon in Libra, halfway through, and there is the sun in Aries in a sandwich between Chiron and Jupiter. So yes, that pair, that conjunction is still resonating and is saying, fresh start, do it differently. And I heard somebody talking about that it was a good idea to like, look at your habits. You know, we've all got these habits that we keep doing, and it's a kind of thoughtlessness in a sense, you know, it's what we're used to. And Aries is like, you know, let me try it different. Let me do it different this time. Let me spice it up. Let me, you know, do something that's new and different. Why not? You know, because it's going to refresh the energy. So, you know, watching those old habits, and also, you know, in the sense of Libra, watching like the old conversations that you always have with certain people. Like, can you talk about something different? Can you bring up some new ideas? Because we've got to be talking about where we're heading together. And to find people not only, you know, this is about listening. You know, Libra is, you know, it's like, oh, who are you? What are you about? What do you, yeah, I understand why you think that way. Yeah, I totally get it. You know, and there's Aries. I am me, I am doing it my way. And there's Libra. Well, hi, you know, whatever you want to do is fine with me because I just want to be with you. And there's Aries saying, I'm out the door. If you want to come along, that's great, but I'm heading out. You know, it's like, finding, you know, we're just been discussing finding the balance, finding a new balance. So this is also finding a level of harmony to overcome what can be argumentative issues. Venus is still in Taurus. She's already by this full moon on April 6th, well, April 5th for many people, April 6th for many as well. Venus is still in Taurus in her glory sign and has already met up with Uranus. That's going to be a change moment for sure, that March 30th. And then we have this, like, how do we do this new thing? You know, what is this new thing? You know, it's like some new invention, like when they started cars, right? Like, I'm used to a horse and buggy. Like, how do I drive a car? It's like, can you get excited about the new things rather than trying to hold on to the old ways, because we aren't going to find many of those old ways that are sustainable or workable with Pluto crashing everything down around on the old systems. So here's Pluto sort of saying, okay, let's see what's happening now. So, and it's squaring the nodes even more closely. And the nodes go backwards. So the nodes are going to be moving in to this square with Pluto more and more over the next couple of months. And then Pluto is going to go back into a Capricorn for a while, and the nodes are still going to be squaring. We'll talk more about that next time on that new moon eclipse moment. Yeah. But it's really exciting to see Pluto in Aquarius. Hasn't been there since the 1790s. So, you know, it feels like a really different approach is needed this time, because we're in a different, like, more global society now to a great extent because of communications and technology and such. So now what?
Well, I think that's the big question right now. What? And I'm just listening to all the things that you've said, and a couple of things are jumping out at me. So first of all, we've got that Ceres opposition to Neptune, which I think is interesting. Maybe you could expand on that. But also, I'm feeling into the stellium down in Aries now, because obviously with that getting a little more congested, it is bringing the energy of Aries into that stellium that's spanning from Chiron at 15 to Aries at 24. So how does that energy of Aries, the street fighter, come into that mixture now with Chiron, the sun, and Jupiter and Aries? Because it's getting more and more potent, I would suggest.
Yes, well, it is an aspect of the feminine, the divine feminine. And so she wants to wake people up. You know, she's like, look, you got to look at this, people. And so she just can be contentious because she's not willing to go along with things. She's not willing to accommodate other people like Aries can have the tendency to do. But if we get too out of balance, we can't stand up straight and we're going to fall. You know? So Aries is like really take on that mantle of courage, you know, be strong, be
I would say even be sovereign,
courageous.
maybe she's asking us to be sovereign.
Well, that is absolutely so. And that is the Aries integrity, you know, and that is, you know, I am me. We're not, you know, that's kind of been knocked out of us a little bit, you know, if we carry some trauma or whatever it is, you know, and some of this is collectively imposed, not just, well, and the family plays it out, but it's like, yes, who are you? You know, like come as yourself. That can be quite radical. And then that's going to change the conversation. That's going to change how we are meeting and engaging with others.
Right, for sure, you know, and as you're saying all of that, it's kind of solidifying more in my mind with all the things we just talked about with Jupiter and Chiron, and then with this full moon illuminating that, and the sun also being in the mix there. But also now it's like, well, on our healing journey, on our vision quest, on our quest for wholeness, have we come to the point where we are able to stand up for ourselves and say, no, that doesn't work for me? Because you know what, I have that strength to say no. I have that inner resolve, that inner fortitude. And Aries is like, you know what, I'm going to buck the status quo. I'm not just going to do that because everybody else is doing it. I'm going to do it because it's either right or wrong for me, or not do it if it's wrong for me, you know. And so I feel like that's now being brought into the story that we are being forced to acknowledge. Is like, how much do you stand up for yourself? How much do you hold your boundaries and say, do what you want, but for me, that's not going to work? And have we gleaned the wisdom from our vision quest journey with Chiron to be able to understand what that really means?
Yeah, we're still on that vision quest.
It's a long one, thousands of years.
Again, about the critical moment that this Chiron Jupiter represents, both for healing, you know, personally and maybe collectively. And that there's still this, we're still moving forward. We're not going back. We have to keep reminding ourselves that we're moving forward. You know, we're stepping forward. You know, we can't go back. There's no back to go to, obvious. That's becoming more and more obvious. So can we, you know, kind of engage the thrill? You know, and Jupiter can like, wow, this could be so fun. You know, this could be, let's enjoy it, says Jupiter. Right. And forget, you know, forget this, you know, just be in the moment and find that joy. And there's Eris saying, you know, I didn't like her. I wasn't even using her for a while. I wasn't even paying attention to her, you know, for a while. But, you know, yeah, she's going to bring things up people don't want to talk about. And that is definitely part of the picture now, because look at, she's like, Mercury's just gone across Eris before this full moon. And Mercury's now on the North Node on this full moon, really, really close. And like Mercury's putting out the news. Hey, everybody, this is what's happening. You know, Venus was there on the new moon, but Mercury is there on the full moon saying, okay, I've got something to tell you. Things are changing. Here's what's happening. And so this is, you know, groundedness. This is like feet on the ground, you know, Taurus. So Mercury is going to say, here's what's happening. Here's what's been happening. Here's what you have to think about in a practical way. And you have to find a way to make it work for you. And that might be by doing something different, because you can't do the same old, same old. And again, it's about getting out of old habits. And here we have Mars in Cancer now. Mars went into Cancer on the 25th, just a couple of days after Pluto went into Aquarius. Mars finally changed sign. And, you know, I think of this as like, you know, Mars is called in its detriment or something, and, you know, in astrology, but look, we got Mars in Cancer, let's use the best of it. It's very good at defense. It's very good at protecting. It's very good at taking care of. It's like circling the wagons and like, okay, let's just get our, our domicile, fortified. Let's just find a kind of place where we, feel safe and feel comfortable for the moment and can take a little break out just to kind of contemplate what is going on and what does it mean to me. Cancer is not an instant feedback sign. Gemini's instant feedback, response right away. Cancer is more like, I got to feel this through. What did she say? What did he say? I got to feel that out. So it's a different energy. And we're back to more water. So this is really bringing more water into the mix, and indeed is forming a triangle with Mars in Cancer, working very well with the nodes, and Saturn in Pisces. So that the more water, this is a paying more attention to water, the quality of the water we're drinking, using the salt in the water to release the energy in the water, so it's more vibrant and life-giving. So the water becomes really important now, and make sure you're drinking water and hydrating your body, and kind of allowing what needs to be released more easily.
So just to clarify, to make sure that I've understood that correctly, we've got a trine going on between Mars at 5 degrees in Cancer, with Saturn at 3 degrees in Pisces, and the North Node and Haumea at 0 and 4 degrees of Scorpio. I mean, that sounds very, very harmonious.
Yeah, it's very close. It's like 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
And Haumea's in there as well. She is going back into Libra. You notice she's retrograde, and she is going back into Libra for a few months. Mm-hmm. So is Pluto going back into Capricorn for a few months. So they're working together very, very closely. It's very interesting. And we got the square right there, almost to the minute. They're really, kind of working off each other here.
And like you said, it's all water, right? It's the fixed, mutable, and the cardinal water signs. Right?
Yep. And yes, and then we've got the fixed with Pluto, the fixed with Mercury. Now the Mercury square Pluto, that's definitely, I said it's going to be telling us what's actually going on, on the ground. And Pluto, it's going to be like some stuff like, whoa, this is really shaking us up. This is really like, never would have thought that. This can be, some challenging stuff going on with the news here, and with what's going on in the collective consciousness is like, whoa, look at what's really going on. So there's that. And then, so that's the Scorpio fixed, the air sign fixed, the earth sign fixed, and there's Black Moon Lilith right at 2 degrees of Leo. This is the true Black Moon, which goes backwards and forwards a lot more often than the mean Black Moon, that is the steady forward progress of Lilith, the Black Moon, through the sign. But I like that, which is at about 8 or 9 degrees during this moon cycle. But the true Black Moon is really pinpointing. And it's like, there it is. Like, this is really echoing, if you remember back to the January 21st new moon, there was Black Moon in Leo. I think it was 1. And we had the new moon at 1 Aquarius. So this is, and the nodes. So this is kind of echoing, or kind of just bringing back that, Chinese New Year moment, which was a pretty powerful moon. And you and I have been talking about when the two Liliths actually line up. And, it's not a regular thing. And this, during this moon cycle, we have one of those conjunctions on March 28th. And that would be.
Just to clarify again, for those who people who haven't heard this before from me and you, we've identified that the true mean movement of black moon and the the mean moon. I'll let you explain because I always get my words jumbled up.
Well, you know, Lilith is mean, but
Right.
Lilith is also true.
Exactly.
And they can be very far apart because the black moon is related to the moon's cycle around the earth, and the moon moves faster and slower. Sometimes it comes closer to the earth, farther away. And so if we're tracking the mean average motion forward, that's really not the sort of reality of Lilith's movement. She goes retrograde a lot. Right. So she's like this belly dancer, and she can be up to 30 degrees different, those two positions, and then they come together, and it's like this wavelength that is like, you know, kind of coming together and just slicing through, you know, whatever's going on to get to the soul essence. Very much, you know, what you were saying about sovereignty and being very soul centered. That black moon is very much about that. And so black moon opposite Pluto.
Right. So I was just going to dive into that, but just to clarify, so we have two what we call alignment days where the true and the mean black moon Lilith come together, and what we've identified is that on those days a sort of almost like a portal or a vortex can open up where a certain type of energy can be worked with the energy of the moon, the hidden energy of the moon, for magic and manifestation.
Yeah.
And so in this particular cycle,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We have one on March the 28th, and then we have one on April the 8th, which is just 2 days after this. But also, as we've just highlighted, Black Moon Lilith is, I guess we could say this is forming a fixed grand cross, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and a very rare one. I mean, the nodes. Now, the new nodes are also like the black moon. They can, you know, in doing astrology chart, you get a choice whether you want the mean node or the true node. But they're only a couple, 2 or 3 degrees different at most. The black moon kind of exaggerates that and takes it farther. So there are these variable positionings. But yeah, the fixed signs go deeper. They take you deeper. The cardinals start something new. The mutable are flexible and changeable because you're finishing something and harvesting and moving on. So the fixed just have this, I don't know if stable's quite the right word, but it's this fixity of going deeper into the energy that is there. So here's the black moon taking us deeper into this new Pluto. And also expressing the fact that it's not just a new Pluto era, which is going to be a 20-year transit, but the nodes are in there. This is a major, major turning point that, and the black moon is saying, and the epitome of it is, if we're going to this quantum consciousness time, the black moon is saying that is, you really need to be connected to your soul for this. You can't let the ego be driving. You can't let the false self you need. And there's where Aries comes in. Hey, I'm going to bust you, you know, if you aren't really being true to yourself. And the black moon does that same thing. If you're coming from the ego, she can be incredibly negative.
Right. So
she could be, I wouldn't call her saintly, but I would say, you know, it's like the spaciousness of potential. And at the best, that can be what Haumea also brings us in Scorpio, going really deep down and finding some kind of core level of erotic charge that wants to be manifest. And there's the North Node saying, okay, we can do this. And new moon, it was Venus. On the full moon, it is Mercury, the magician card in the tarot.
Right. So we've got this fixed grand cross here, which actually contains a number of elements, because even if we took the nodes out, it's still a fixed grand cross with Haumea and with Mercury.
Yeah.
But with the nodes in there, it's giving this extra element. But so we've got that, but we've also got this water trine going on across all three of the fixed, mutable and cardinal water signs. And I've also just noticed that we also have here, I guess that's Venus in a nice aspect to Ceres in Virgo, Venus in Taurus aspecting Ceres
yes,
in Virgo.
lovely. Some good earth there.
Right. So
Yeah. So, and in a nice sextile with Neptune. So yeah, this is a different alignment than that Aries series. She's back in our resonance with earth energy and going with the flow, and also finding that the divinity of materiality. Earth is divine, matter is holy, nature is has this it's like connecting heaven and earth together, these two in a beautiful way. And Neptune's also in water. So this could be very interesting manifestations. Number one, as we are more vigilant about the quality of the water we're drinking. We are so watery, our bodies, that we need really good quality water. And we need to be more aware of the pollution that Neptune in Pisces can be prone to, but also like the magical ways in which we can change the quality of the water by engaging with it, by thinking good thoughts, by sending it love, by impressing it with really good energy. So this is part of the magic. There's a lot of magic in this full moon, isn't there?
It really is. And I think that as we've deep dive more on this, the energies have sort of revealed themselves, as I think they always do in our shows. It's like what I'm getting is that, yes, it's a very challenging full moon in many ways, but only if you're not prepared to step up and step out. If you're still trying to hold tightly to how you've been before, how your life was before, how the world was before, and you're not prepared to loosen up a little bit, it could be kind of tight and hard and feel like you're getting squeezed. But if you open up yourself with the Jupiter Chiron energies and start to explore all of the other wonderful aspects that are going on, particularly with some of the earth signs, but also the watery signs, there's actually a lot of potential here. And I think underneath all of this is this conversation. It is now arising, I think, across many of our podcasts. I saw it with the one that you did with Pam. It's also come up a lot in the Nettle Immersion. I know that there's some wonderful work by Veda Austin out there. Hopefully might get to do a podcast with her at some point. That would be kind of cool. But all talking about structured water. And as we found with Nettle, we have this structured water inside of us, or at least we should have, unless we've been breached. And if we've been breached, what we're talking about is how that structured, in theory, perfect water, pure water in us has become contaminated. Now, with Neptune in Pisces, we're learning that with the use of quantum magic and intention and a clear, safe space without the oppressive inverted energies that we had in the old paradigm, we can now start to dream about how we clean up our waters. First, the waters in our body, but also, we were learning recently here about how the whales, have been singing the songs of the oceans, keeping them pure, keeping them clean. And of course, this made me think recently about, wow, think about all of the animals that have been persecuted, oppressed, not just humans, and their function in the world, whether it's the whales, the dolphins, singing the songs of the ocean. Without those songs, the seas have become polluted. And again, the elephants and the tigers, the great animals of the land space, they also have their job within the eco space. But as they've been persecuted almost to extinction, their ability to hold, particularly the whales in the great oceans, their ability to hold the frequencies of the oceans has diminished. And as that's happened, the populations of all of the animals in the sea have diminished. And now we've got plastic. But with Neptune in Pisces and with the energy of Ceres and Virgo and all of the other things that we've got going on there, I feel like we've been given the opportunity to say, step out from your, in fact, I wrote it down here, step out, let go of your old habits and give yourself the opportunity to do it differently, to look at your life differently.
Yes.
Give yourself the opportunity, for Christ's sake. God, don't give yourself a choice, right?
Opportunity is a Jupiter world. This is full of opportunity. This moon cycle is full of opportunity. Like, grab onto it, like catch a falling star, and don't put it in your pocket. Use it, go for it, follow it.
Right, exactly. You know, the old paradigm of, hey, I'm going to collect as much cash and hoard it as I can. I'm going to put it in the Silicon Valley Bank and see how does that do. Maybe that's not worked out so well for you. You know what? My old teacher, Patrick McManaway, bless him, Dr. Patrick, he always said money is energy. And if you hoard it, it goes stagnant. And if it goes stagnant, well, then it's not so great. Keep it moving, keep it flowing. Invest in yourself now. Don't invest in yourself in 30 years' time when you retire, because who knows, 30 years is a long time from now. Invest in yourself now. And with this energy in Aries, like, give yourself the opportunity to think differently. So, you know what, I've done it like that for 30 years. I'm bored of that. Feels old. I'm enjoy doing something different, because it could be fun. Who knows, right?
Absolutely could be fun. Could be very healing. And, you know, there's Pluto looking at Mercury. If you get negative minded, switch it up. Like, don't go there. If you look at something negative on the news and you go, oh my God, don't go there. No, there's another option. There's probably a different interpretation. Find the way that works for you and has a positive energy behind it. So important, because that goes into the collective again. The more of us that are thinking in a positive way, I keep saying that because I think that's so key to our times.
I totally agree, Kelley, and like you, I bang this drum a lot. Right thoughts, right speech, right actions. The Buddha's got many things right in my experience, but those three tenets are super, super important. And no longer can we have the excuse of like, oh, I didn't think that my thoughts were that important. It's like, no, thoughts are intentions. And when we put energy behind them and charge them and then send them, we can either do amazing things with them, or we can do not so great things with them, or we can just do things that don't really amount to much. So every single action that we take, whether it's a thought, a word, or a deed, are all important. And once we get on board with that very dandelion energy, like be present with, what am I doing right now? What the hell is coming out of my mouth? Is it something positive, something uplifting, or is it something negative, judgmental, like down? Because whatever we're exhibiting or externalizing is going to go into the fractal of the collective. And are we poisoning the collective, or are we infusing it with light? Again, it's our choice, but we are doing that whether we intend to or not. But every action we have is having an effect on everything else, because part of the fractal.
Full moon is full of choices. Neptune, full moon in Libra. And Ceres is suggesting prioritizing. Virgo's about setting your priorities. This is like taking care of your body, feeding yourself. So, with nature and good things, and that's going to help your body. And also, prioritize your happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
And as we
selfish, it's like, this is, the beauty path, according to the native peoples, to bring beauty into the world. It's also, knowing that you embody the beauty of nature and that you contribute to that by loving yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Because you are you. Nobody else is you. Aries knows that very well.
Right. And I think that, hashtag prioritize your happiness is important. It's like, if you're miserable and down and feeling, then you're not going to be really putting out a positive vibe into the world. And if you are in that state because you're not paying enough attention to your body, to your health, to your mental well-being, to the inputs or narratives you let into your life, then this is the opportunity to switch up and say, I don't want to be miserable anymore. I'm done with that. You know what? That's old. I want to feel good, happy, healthy, strong, vibrant.
But to let go of with that south node, let that go down the drain. Let that pass under the bridge. If it's not feeling good, it's not worth doing.
Let it go.
I know it's easy to say, but it's true. And that's where we're moving on with that premise,
Exactly. So as we come to the conclusion of another wonderful show, and my word, these hours really do fly by, Kelley, when we're doing these shows. I would like to get you just maybe to suggest to our audience, with this new moon and full moon energies, what would be the direction that you would put your intentions? What are your intentions for this new moon, and how do you want them to manifest?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. On the 21st, I am flying off to the Virgin Islands, and I'm like going to be experiencing my new life. I mean, I'm not moving there. I used to live there, but I just feel like this is the way I'm engaging, you know, with this new energy coming in. I'm getting away from, you know, my habits, you know, this is how I'm, you know, so I'm getting away, and I'm going to a place I love, but there are always new things happening. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing something. I'm going somewhere. I'm ready for a new adventure. And I'm letting myself be more open to new experiences and possibilities in a way that I'm not always, you know, that open to sometimes.
Great. I think that's a really excellent way of channeling the energies, is changing up the environment that you're in, being somewhere that makes you feel good, somewhere that's familiar, but also something that doesn't feel stagnant, and something like, oh, this is something that I'm going back to because it's old and it feels secure. But it's like how to find the places on the earth that make you feel good. You know, if you're living somewhere that you're miserable and it's not working out for you, be brave. Say, hey, maybe after 25 years, I need to move house away from this area. Maybe I need to go and hang out with different people, hang out in a different environment. And you know, sometimes
stale. What is lacking? Vitality. We need to like re-engage and find that vitality again. And sometimes just even a quick trip, you know, can change it up enough for us.
Exactly. And you know, as long as you're doing with the intention of like not trying to escape, but hey, I'm going to rearrange my life. I'm going to let go of the way of things I was doing before because they're old and I'm not getting anything from them. There's no juice, there's no vitality left, right? And I know from experience, and humanity is not always very good at doing this, but sometimes it's very frightening to jump into something different.
Yeah.
You know, and say, oh, but I've already got all of this and it feels secure, but it's not really making me happy. But at least I'm secure. At least I think I am. But what happens if I get rid of all of that and I have no safety net anymore? And I'm just jumping into the sea of Pisces with my little boat. And am I ready to go off on a big adventure? And hopefully the answer is yes, because what could be more exciting than being given like the opportunity to say, hey, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff from before. All you have to do is let go of it and be open to receive. Right.
Yeah. Just take a step. You don't need to jump off totally. Take one step, then the next step. And, you know, one easy thing to do is just clean out your closet and let go of things you're not using that don't mean anything to you anymore. Give them away, make somebody else happy. Just doing something like that is always a good indication to give Pluto that you're willing to let go and you know, kind of make space for the new. So even starting there.
Right, and of course, any, you know, at this time of year, a spring clean is a good idea because we're spring cleaning the body, hence with the plants, the garlic, the cleavers, the nettles, the dandelions, spring cleaning out, first of all, this house, then spring clean out the house that you live in, because you know, if you've got those mounds of magazines and dirty boxes and God knows what animals maybe have moved in underneath there during the winter because they were cold, you know, you need to get all of that stuff out because it's in those dark, dusty recesses of your house that the dust and the dirt starts to form. And that's a reflection of what's going on in your inner space.
Yeah, maybe you'll find some treasures that you forgot about or thought you lost or like whatever.
Right, yeah, maybe some old creative art book that you used to draw beautiful pictures in that inspires you to go out and do the same thing again. You know, we've seen in the nettle immersion that we just completed so many people bringing out old artworks and revisiting things that they painted and going, oh my gosh, this has suddenly triggered some new ideas for me. And I put this, you know, down 2 years ago and I've come back to it. So, you know, it's not to say that everything from the past has to be thrown out. It's like, no, be discerning. Check through your stuff. It's like, is this stuff something that can then be evolved, Jupiter again? Or is it something that can be, oh, no, this is not really working. It's time to get rid of that. Or maybe move it on to another home where it can have a new life, right?
Yeah.
So old things ending, new things beginning. As always with a new moon, we have the opportunity to set some beautiful prayers and intentions. And hopefully today's discussion has given you some pointers about where you should be thinking about these intentions. But as always, Kelley, before we finish today, where can people find out more about your work? What's your website?
The best place is heliastar.com, HELIA star.com. You can email me through there. You can see my newsletter that always gets posted. I'm almost done with the new moon newsletter that accompanies these videos. And yeah, that's the best way to find me, you know, how to make appointment with me if you want to do that, or read a lot of stuff that I put up there, you know, about the cosmic feminine and the Kuiper Belt objects that are my two, you know, special areas at the moment.
Right, and of course you have your 2 wonderful books on Black Moon Lilith that can also be purchased from the site. And also
my Kuiper Belt coloring book.
Yes, the Kuiper Belt coloring book, very useful actually. We have a copy here, and it certainly helped me to understand just some of those KBOs a little bit better. But also, I just want to give out a quick shout out to the video that you did with the wonderful Pam Gregory, a friend of both of ours, about Salacia and Sedna. Very, very important, again, talking about water. And I think that water is going to be a big topic of conversation in many of our podcasts this year. So
we got a lot of feedback from that. Yeah.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, very, very good. And I think it's important to deep dive sometimes on these more, I wouldn't say obscure, it's the wrong word, but these more hidden aspects of the astrology, focusing on.
They're so new.
They're so new, right? Exactly. So once again, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you. Big thanks to the wonderful Kelly Hunter for doing another show here. Hopefully it's been useful, and we look forward to seeing you all in a month's time, and probably by that time we'll have a lot of more juicy stuff to talk about.
Who knows where we'll be by then.
All right, everybody, take care, take it easy, have fun, and see you next time. Ciao for now.